And we are live. Good evening, Maine, my home state. Good evening, America, uh, greatest nation on the earth still. I am Dana the Angry Citizen coming to you live from Brewer, Maine. It is November 22nd, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I have an awesome guest that I'm really excited to speak with and talk about a few issues with. Joining me today, he and I met originally at a protest that we had down in our state's capital, Augusta, during the so-called pandemic, when there were the so-called lockdowns, and we were told we needed to shut down our businesses, hide in our homes, and wait for the kind, benevolent government and medical authorities to save us from the horrible plague that was sweeping the land, killing people in droves. And those of us that protested this and asked for explanations and answers and cast a doubt on this narrative we were being given were vilified, castigated, rebuked by society in general. And this man suffered a great deal at the hands of our unconstitutional governor, aka Janet Mills. He originally owned a restaurant up in, I think it was Bethel. I'll ask him in a second. Pretty sure it was Bethel, Sunday River Brewing Company. And he was ordered to shut down his business by our governor. And he was as compliant and cooperative as he could be for as long as he thought he could be, but eventually began to question and eventually outright say, this is insane and we need to open up. And he was one of the few people here in Maine with the, excuse my French, balls to do it. And I respect him tremendously for that. He's been very outspoken, as am I. I admire that very much. His name is Rick Savage. Rick, thanks for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it. I'm super glad to see you again.
No, I appreciate you calling me the other day for this opportunity.
Man, I'm excited to do it because when I watched your interviews with Tucker Carlson, which I will, to the audience, I will link in the comments each of these interviews that Rick did with Tucker Carlson, which I thought were excellent because he did an excellent job of talking about the specific issues, and which we're going to cover in a minute. But and when I watched your interviews and you were talking to him, you I thought brilliantly outlined the things that should outrage all of us, people in Maine, people nationwide, that we need to talk about. And you presented plausible and verifiable truths about the injustices that were done against you, the actions that were taken against you. We're going to get into this a little bit, all of which were unconstitutional. And in fact, all of the people, I just told Rick a moment ago as we were talking, getting ready to go live, that when he had a whole horde of state police and so-called agents visit him because he openly said, I'm not going to listen to your so-called mandate, your order, Janet Mills, you have no authority over me, which she doesn't. And they came swarming in like angry hornets to slap him down per the actions of our Empress, Janet Mills. So we're going to talk about that. So let's go back in time. We were told there was a terrible, horrible, deadly plague sweeping the land, killing people in droves. There were lockdowns, and which I reject immediately the very concept of a so-called lockdown in my state. I'm an American and I have rights, and you can't simply tell me I'm confined to my house. You don't have the authority. Show me the authority. So that's where I stand. So our hospitality industry in Maine is critical. And Rick, obviously, you know a little bit more about that than I do, but isn't it something like a high percentage of our industries here in Maine are hospitality? Is that right?
People come to Maine to have fun. They come to ski, eat at restaurants, go bowling, whatever we have to offer, hike, bike, all that stuff. And Maine is a driving force behind it with what we have up here for the wilderness and what we offer. So, it's not, we don't have the mills anymore, the wood turning mills and all that stuff we used to have. We have ski areas, resorts, campgrounds, places like that, sporting camps, restaurants. That's what we have. And that's what we all live on.
Hotels, motels. And, she was just like, shut them down. And this was madness. Okay. In my world, it was madness. And as you know, I was very vocal about that right from the start and alarmed at how few people were to simply say, what is going on? You don't have authority to order us to stay in our homes, regardless of the threat. And we're going to talk about that because in my world, I said right from day one, show me this horrible plague. Show me the people dying in droves, piles of bodies. Tell me how you've identified it. I want to know. As a man of science, I want you to be able to explain to me, how do you know that this person that has this particular thing, that this virus that you claim exists, show me the virus, show me the proof, show me how you've identified that it's causing people to be sick. And after all of that, I still reject your claim that you get to tell me to close my restaurant. And I know we're on
What
the same page
happened,
with that.
what happened at the beginning, they scared people. So it was out there. Everybody was like, everybody's going to die. There's people going to die. You know, we had staff at that point. I had probably 65, 70 people working at that restaurant. So they come into me, probably 10, 20 of them, like, I don't feel safe coming to work with this. And my brother, my wife, his wife, we talked about it, the four of us that own it. And we said, you know what? We agree. We don't know what's going on. We closed the day before they mandated us to close. So I actually closed a day earlier than Mills told us to close.
Okay.
Out of fear. And they actually put fear into my employees.
Sure.
And we were like, hey, we don't want anybody to die on our watch. You know, we're going to take this serious until we know what's going on. So we closed a day early. The next day, the day after, the state mandated that everybody close. We were already closed anyway. So we were watching what was going on. And I'm like, I got a lot of food. I had a ton of food, produce, you name it. I probably had $20,000 worth of food in my walk-in cooler. I'm like, I'm not throwing this food out. We got a hold of the school system. We made a deal with them. Let's cook this food and give it to needy people. We didn't know what was going on. And not only all the restaurants in the whole town brought their food to us. We cooked 11,000 meals and gave them away free. We bought food during that process to make meals, to make sure we could give them enough to, make a salad. They needed tomatoes, whatever. And the school system picked it up and we donated to one church and it worked out great. And it went on for a long time, probably from March until almost the 1st of May. So in middle of April, they're like, we can open back up next week. So I buy another $15,000, $20,000 worth of groceries. And then a couple of days before we can open up, she's like, I changed my mind.
Yeah, let's pause on that because a lot of people don't know that that's what happened here in Maine. This is critical. So she shut down this industry, which again, she had no lawful authority to do. And prove me wrong on that. Okay, everyone's always like, oh, no, you don't know what you're talking about. Are you a lawyer? Blah, blah, blah. Ad hominem attacks. Okay, you know what? Prove it. Prove me wrong. I'm right. She does not have the lawful authority. So these folks, like Rick, willingly complied, attempting to be good, Mainers and work in the public interest and everyone's safety, blah, 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 so forth. She comes along, she goes, okay, well, I've decided she's now the emperor. Okay. This is really making me mad. So I'm trying to maintain my calm. She's the empress. She gets to say, I graciously allow you to open your place of business again. I am the great Janet Mills. And they all go, okay, well, for those who don't know, running a restaurant is a really tricky because you have ingredients, you make dishes, those ingredients have a shelf life. You have to make them within a certain time. And sometimes some things you have to cook ahead. You have to store things differently. You have raw ingredients and cooked ingredients. They have to be stored differently. It's very tricky to maintain this. And so when she says, okay, you can open in a week, or 2 weeks or whatever it was, you have to start planning well ahead so that you can open your doors, get people in, feed them, and so forth. So go ahead, Rick. So she says, okay, you can open your doors, you buy a bunch of stuff, and then she changes her mind. Now we've decided, no, we're not going to let you do that.
100%. So I have all these groceries sitting there, and I'm like, I'm not doing this again. So I got kind of mad.
Because we knew we were safe.
Because we knew we were safe. We knew there was nothing going on. They wanted masks and plexiglass and space, and we had big enough space. We're like, we'll do whatever, And so that's what we're gearing up to do. And then all of a sudden she says, you can't do it. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. We're not doing this. So I had a couple Tito's a day or two before I went on Tucker. And I ended up calling a friend of mine who's a friend of Tucker's. And I've been a friend of Tucker's for a long time. And I said, I'm going to open. And I'm going to tell people I'm opening. And that's how I got on Tucker. Enough is enough. People should have stood up at that point and opened back up. There was a lot of businesses getting ready to go out of business. Because at that point, we'd gotten some of the PPP money, but not a lot of it. So people were straining for cash, and plus they were sitting at home for months. People were like, I'm going back to work. We worked the whole time. We went to work every day, 5 days a week, cooking those meals, my wife and myself. Now we had volunteers from Massachusetts come in, people that were coming up and staying in Bethel, and we had a great. The school was picking them up. It worked out great, and we thought, okay, this is over. We can open back up. Let's go back to normalcy. And it wasn't going to be that for a long time because of the control thing that they were all about. And let me correct you: the state police or the sheriffs, none of them come in and harassed us. It was all Mills's inner circle, close inner circle. DHHS, alcohol, those type of people. The state police stayed out of it and the sheriffs stayed out of it.
Okay.
And that's the truth. It was all her inner circle, and they met the day after I went on Tucker Carlson and said I was going to open up. They met at 9 o'clock in the morning and come up with ways to put us out of business right off quick. So it was all her inner circle. And what happened? All those people got raises during this whole COVID thing.
Right.
They all got raises because she wanted her little puppets out in the field harassing us, and that's what it come down to. I mean, I had Larry Sanborn, the alcohol director, in front of my restaurant for like 5 or 6 hours one day, spying on me. I went out there, I flipped him off. I'm like, "You're a moron,"
you.
right?
Good for you.
He goes, "You did exactly what I wanted you to do." I'm like, "What's that?" He goes, I wanted to harass you over here so my people on the other side could film what's going on."
Of course.
With
Yeah.
our money. I'm like, "Huh? Why don't you worry about the people in the nursing homes and all that stuff instead about me over here? If people
Yeah.
don't want to come in my restaurant, don't come in."
Yeah, it's atrocious, and thank you for having the courage to stand up, because you were one of the few. And when you and I met, we had a pretty decent crowd that day down in Augusta. You know, Dale Crafts was there, and just a whole ton of people were there that, you know, good patriotic Mainers, all on the same page with regard to the fact that, you know, COVID may or may not exist. It may or may not be making people sick, but these actions are unconstitutional. They are. And we all knew it, and we all saw it, and you know, we called them out, and you know, here we are years later, basically saying, "We told you so."
Well, you
We
can't
really
only
did.
away from people for so long before we're going to be like, enough is enough. You know, if you don't want to go out, stay home. I still see people driving around with a mask on in their car today by themselves.
Me too.
And they scared people that much, and that's the truth. It's sad, really. You know, we were one of them I said, "I'm not doing this anymore." You know, I broke up a multi-million-dollar business with my brother over this.
Wow.
I left the state of, I was not allowed to run a restaurant in the state of Maine for the rest of my life because of my character. That's what it come down to.
Yeah, that's ludicrous, and I am sickened and deeply disturbed that we've allowed ourselves as Americans to become in a place where we think the government has simply raw, undeniable, unlimited power over us. They get to just tell us what to do, and we damn well better do it, or the agents will come punish us. It's exactly the opposite of what our founding fathers wanted when they started this nation, this constitutional republic. So, and I want to point this out right now, America, and I know what I'm talking about here. I'll tell you, if anyone that is depriving you of your God-given constitutionally protected rights under color of law is committing a felony. And this is God's honest truth, okay? I will show you here what it says. If I can use my computer correctly. I'm pretty good at this normally. There we go. There it is. Section 242 of Title 18 makes it a crime for a person acting under color of any law to willfully deprive a person of a right or privilege protected by the Constitution or laws of the United States. Down here it says, whoever under any color of law, statute, ordinance, regulation, or custom willfully subjects any person in any state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured or protected by the Constitution or laws of the United States shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 1 year or both, and if bodily injury results from acts committed in violation of this section, or if such acts include the use, attempted use, or threatened use of a dangerous weapon, explosives, or fire, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years or both, and if death results from the acts committed in violation of this section, or if such acts include kidnapping, such as with Child Protective Services, or an attempt to kidnap, aggravated sexual abuse, or an attempt to commit aggravated sexual abuse, or an attempt to kill, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned for any term of years or for life or both, or may be sentenced to death. And people don't like to hear this because it's confronting this grim reality that this is where we stand. But we are at a crossroads, America. The governors of all these states, this includes our state, Janet Mills, it includes Gavin Newsom, it includes Gretchen Whitmer, it includes, there's a bunch of them, all jumped right on this bandwagon and started doing these things. They're flagrantly unconstitutional. and it's treason. And there's no statute of limitations on this, America, so we can hold them accountable. All we have to do is get together and decide we want to do it. So I'm a little bit off the track, but back to when you were in that situation where you now said, I'm opening up. They send all the troops down, the stormtroopers down to shut you down, and they took away your health license. Was that it?
What happened? It went for like 2 or 3 months back and forth. They were coming in every day, fining me for not wearing a mask, and my brother not wearing a mask, and that. And actually, they weren't wearing a mask. We had brand new camera system. It was bad. So we're like, hey, you guys know we got a brand new camera system. You're not wearing a mask, and you're giving me a fine for not wearing a mask. So what happened is, so it went back and forth. Then finally, they got us in court. They tried to get the court to shut us down. It went back and forth, and finally, I got the sheriff, Oxford County Sheriff's Department, to put a restraining order on the state of Maine employees that were harassing us, which they did.
Good.
And
Good.
so they did that. And so like 3 months later, through the court system, they got that pulled. Then they sent agents up from Biddeford, Saco area, Old Orchard Beach to inspect us. And, so I get a call like 3 months later, hey, you got people in here again. We're just running as normal. They sent undercover agents in, older women with hidden cameras. They spent a little over $500,000, we figured, to put us out of business. So finally, they get the restraining order pulled. They come in to inspect us. I'm a little unruly. I'm like, hey, guys, what are you doing? I'm busy. They want to use my hand sink. I'm like, I didn't tell you could use my hot water. Get off my hot water. One of them laughed. We go to court. He goes to court. He's like, I had to leave. I thought he was going to kill me. I thought he had a gun. That's what you can read the court thing. That's what it said.
Yep.
And then he was chasing us down the road 110 miles an hour. I'm like, no, I was actually following you guys to see if you were going to stop at another restaurant, to see if you were inspecting other people, and you didn't. And you started driving 110 miles an hour. I was just trying to see where you were going. I didn't chase you. How can I chase you? I'm behind you. I'm following you. I didn't tell you to drive 100 miles an hour. So they freaked out. They went to the bowling alley. They went to the movie theater. They done zookies around the lawn and stuff, like I was chasing them like mad people. So they could go to court and say, we thought we were going to be killed. This guy was threatening us. I'm a veteran. I'm a Navy CB. I had a great 6 or 7 years in the Navy. I got no record, never had a record. My brother's a veteran. He was a crypto tech in the Air Force. We both had great military records. We're veterans running small businesses, and we're getting harassed by the state that we're running them in. You know why? Because we don't take their crap.
Yep.
Janet Mills was my lawyer in 2012, and she was so bad, I had to hire another lawyer to get my money back.
Wow. I'm not surprised, Rick. I met her.
And I got my money back. She gave me my money back because she was so incompetent. Now she's running our state.
Yeah.
We're going to be $1 billion in debt when we're done with this woman.
Yeah, we could do a whole show on Janet Mills. I met her once in person at an event, and she was just, it was an event regarding addiction and substance abuse, and she was there as the attorney general, and there were other people there, so-called experts. There was one guy they had brought in who was actually an addict, a recovering addict, and he wanted to talk, and they wouldn't let him talk. They kept talking, and she kept talking. And he was really mad at the end. I remember I talked to him, and he was like, they didn't even want to hear what I had to say. I'm the guy who's living it, and they don't even want to hear me. And Janet Mills was really funky, just gave me a very, very funky vibe.
She's an expert on drugs, let me just tell you that.
Yeah, well, that's not a shock to me at all. I have zero doubt. I've heard a lot of rumors. I don't normally give them credence, but at some point you hear something enough, and it starts to take on a little weight. And I've heard some very credible things, but we're going to avoid that. I personally... I made no mistake about my disdain for her. If anyone wants to know, they can just go back through my videos. I am very vocal about it because I have every right to be. She is a tyrant. She's a criminal. She is full of shenanigans. She and the so-called, and I'm not Republican, Democrat. I disdain politics, but in this case, it's a solid truth that she and the Democrats are pulling bullshit and shenanigans and shady stuff, like not filling in the words of the piece of legislation they're proposing, and sort of to keep like a placeholder there, and then they can fill in the words at some future point if they want to. And what you had described on Tucker, she burned through that rainy day fund that Paul LePage had amassed like it was just candy on Halloween. Boom. And she's just contemptible. That's my opinion. And I know we share that, so I believe it's
We
founded
had
on
one of the
fact.
worst governors we could have had during the pandemic. And actually, we have, I think, the third worst fiscal responsible governor in the country right now. And she ranks in the top 2 or 3 of worst governors in the United States.
Agree.
And we keep putting her there. I can't believe it. I couldn't believe last time when she got reelected after what we've been through, and the citizens in the state of Maine. And it's not, it's Northern Maine's all, we all know what goes on. The South screws us every time,
For sure. Valid, all valid. And I do believe that there were shenanigans, and I don't want to be so bold as to say election fraud, but the numbers really don't look promising in terms of what happened. That's a whole different subject. I'm not going to get there because we're going to go right off into the weeds on that one. But that's my sincerely held belief. I do not trust the election results. Not for 1 second do I trust them. And as soon as there's machines involved, computers involved, no, I'm going, nope. Even if you could prove to me they were entirely accurate, which I would need absolute incontrovertible evidence that those things work correctly every single time without fail, even then I would be skeptical. But at the end of the day, county by county, we could be counting the votes by hand with an audit correctly, and we should be. That's my opinion.
It's embarrassing what we're going through right now with Golden, Ontario. It's embarrassing. Totally. As one, Golden's like, I don't want ranked choice. That's how he got there in the first place. And now he's crying foul on it. But it should have been certified. We got 1 million something people. Florida does it by 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. It's an embarrassment to our state, what's going on. Let me just say something about the state. We've had a Democratic run state for what, 6 years, 100%. That's what's wrong with our state right now. And we go another 2 years, it's only going to get worse. And hopefully people will smarten up the next time we go to election and remember what they're going through right now. Because even though we got Trump back, I think nationally we're going to see gas prices drop, propane prices drop, some food prices drop, but in the state of Maine, it's still not going to be great because they're still going to take care of all these illegals and everything else that we're dealing with right now. And we can't afford it. We're broke.
If we don't get a governor in there that really knows how to fix things, we're definitely going to be facing some hard challenges. And I agree with what you said. I am conspicuously anti-party, but sometimes the shoe fits, and that's the truth. And you're absolutely correct. These so-called Democrats in our state have completely screwed up our government and put us in a terrible financial position. And we have high taxes, we have poverty, we have all kinds of problems. And right now we're facing a winter, and in winter people have to buy heating oil. And even in the best of times, we see people sometimes struggling to pay for their heating oil. So now that we've gone way off in the weeds there, let's circle back to you. And you were deprived of your license. You couldn't keep a liquor license, you said, because the health license was,
what happened
liquor license was contingent upon that.
The court system finally shut my restaurant down for 2 weeks for food and a month for my liquor license. Okay. So this is right before December. So right before we're getting into the ski season. Okay. When I originally opened the restaurant, it was December 18th. So that's when all my licenses come renewed every year, December 18th. Okay. You need a health license in the state of Maine in order to get a liquor license, unless you have a different license as far as no food type deal. Okay. And you pay more for your liquor license. But I had what they call a food license with a liquor license. So I had both. Okay. So I go to court. They finally shut me down for 2 weeks for food and a month for no booze. Okay, so I couldn't sell alcohol for a month, and they shut my whole restaurant down for 2 weeks. So we shut down for 2 weeks. We open back up. We don't sell booze. Now it's coming, December 18th is coming up because that was my renewal, my annual date, my anniversary. So we get ready to open back up. DHHS, Sharon Silver, Department of Health and Human Services, sends us a letter. We will not give you a food license for the rest of your life because of your character. So they shut me down right there because then I couldn't get a liquor license. Okay, so it's December 18th. I had, I'm going to say at that point, probably 60, 65 people working. They shut me right down. I would have to go to Lloyd's of London Insurance, It would have cost me over $100,000 plus a year. Plus I would have had the liability if somebody comes in and quote, gets sick, and they would have sent people in to get sick.
Yeah.
Right?
Outrageous.
And at this point, you got to remember, I had never had a case in my restaurant once. No COVID, no nothing ever. Okay. All my inspections were 99%. You can look it up through the state. And whether I had restaurants or stores or whatever I owned, they were all 99% factual, complete, like the best you can get inspections.
Yeah,
we were clean.
we see what, I mean, those of us that have eyes see what happened to you, Rick. There's no doubt about it. It's not, her razor thin pretenses that somehow she was fulfilling her duties as governor by basically declaring war on a citizen of the state of Maine who had done nothing wrong is outrageous. It makes my blood boil. And so
let me finish. So my brother, who's my partner, okay, we had this company called Two Brothers LLC. We owned the brew pub with it, and we had a store, Savage Brothers Country Store, owned by Two Brothers LLC. I went and I said, okay, you got a problem with me with the brew pub. I'm looking out for my 65 employees. I will sign off on this business. I will never walk in this door again. Let my brother run it. They wouldn't do that.
Of course.
So they were against everything we tried. And basically I got fined twice. I got fined by the court system to shut down a no liquor license. And then the state come in and by rule, not by law, by rule, they decided to shut us down for good.
Yeah.
So since then, I had got out of business with my brother, 7 companies. And my wife and myself went to Gorham, New Hampshire, 30 minutes from our house, and bought another restaurant. And we're running a restaurant in Gorham, New Hampshire right now.
Good on you.
Which we're doing it, but I am coming back to Maine and I'm going to start another Mr. Pizza. And I'm going to do it with a permit or without a permit. And I'm going to challenge the state of Maine because I called them 6 months ago. I called the Attorney General. I'm like, where is my permits? Where do I sit right now within the state of Maine? They hung the phone up on me.
Good. Well, I'm right there with you, brother. I will support everything you do, and I will make sure that the thing that happens needs to happen, which is that people see this, because people weren't being informed about what was happening with you. You weren't represented in our local news, which is insane to me. Insane. What is wrong with the TV stations of Maine that you weren't on this story, top to bottom, inside and out? It's an affront to journalism. This is one of the most important stories ever that you could have put on your local TV stations in Bangor and Portland, and nothing except some very brief little blurb about to make sure you could say, well, we covered it. You didn't cover it, you cowards.
The Sun Journal threatened to sue us. And the Lewiston Sun Journal, Judith Meyer, threatened to sue us. Okay. They took a picture of me in my donut room making donuts with my wife one morning when I allowed them in. Okay. My buddy from Falmouth that I had no idea did a GoFundMe. He puts that picture on the GoFundMe. That night at midnight, the Sun Journal's calling my manager at his house and threatening him, if you don't take this off your web page for this GoFundMe, we're going to sue you.
Wow.
That's no word of a lie. Call Judith Meyer and ask her.
Wow.
Okay? I told her the next day, you ever call my manager like that again at night, it's not going to be good. And I said, go ahead and sue me. It's a picture of me inside my restaurant. They were selling it online.
Wow.
That's the truth.
Oh, man.
I hired private detectives to spy on the court system, okay? And the court system that was shutting me down for not wearing a mask wasn't wearing a mask and got COVID and had to shut down.
Wow.
That's the truth.
Incredible. That is
I got all this in
mind-blowing.
In the courts, it's all there. They were shutting me down for not wearing a mask. They weren't wearing a mask, and that's the truth.
Yep.
We sent a private detective in that I hired to film them. They didn't even know it. Then 2 weeks later, we're supposed to go to court. We couldn't go to court because I got COVID. Boop, boop. Right? You're not going to
Wow.
get a fair trial in Oxford County, Maine. I can tell you that right now. Period.
Yeah.
Okay? Mills put the judge there that saw my case.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that because when I read, and I actually read the verdict or whatever they call it, judgment that and the last thing it said, or the most important thing I remember reading, was something to the effect of that you, I think the phrase was, had not proven that you needed injunctive relief. And I'm thinking to myself, this is very much like I'm walking down the street and I see some guy get jumped by someone else and get punched like 8 or 10 times hard in the face and kicked a few times. And then there's a bodyguard standing there and he leans down and he goes, I don't really think you need my help. You seem like you're okay. At some point, if you really need help, let me know. What has to happen before you're allowed to go to court and say, this injustice that is being perpetrated against me by the governor needs court intervention and justice? It was abysmal. It was a joke.
We subpoenaed 8,000 emails from the state that had said Rick Savage, Sunday River Brewing Company. Okay, that's what the FOIA request was. Okay, it was over 8,000 emails back and forth, different agencies. Most of them whole pages blacked right out. Whole pages.
Yep.
Redacted, whatever you want to say, blacked out.
Redacted, yeah.
Okay. One of them said, other than the Sunday River Brewing Company, how do you want us to handle enforcement? Okay. It took them, they wrangled for 2 hours to try not to get that read into the record. And finally it got read into the record. And I still lost.
Yeah.
At that point, I'm like, this judge is corrupt. He's a moron.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if he's a moron, but he's certainly corrupt. There was no doubt in my mind. When I read that, I was like, this is the most horrendous affront to justice and truth. That at what point do you admit you're just a lying sack of, excuse my French, shit? You are just lying, and he needs to be impeached. And that's on my list. So help me God. So you spent a whole lot of time, energy, resources, money on this lawsuit, and they shot you down.
We spent about $250,000. They spent $500,000. At the end of the day, they shut us down through not the court system, but through rules and regulations. So there's no law on any of this. So I'm coming back and suing their ass. Trust me. I filed a complaint. You can't do it with the Civil Liberties Union. Okay, so we went with America First. That was last January, February. They said they're busy. We understand. If not, we're getting a lawyer. We're coming back and we're suing Janet Mills,
Good.
all the people that were involved, Larry Sanborn, DHHS, Lori Davis. I'm naming all of them.
Hell yeah.
Because they're going to get named.
Hell yeah.
They all got raises through, and they're going to get named. I called Larry up after the fact. I'm like, Larry, you're a moron. You want to go do this to people? You're an idiot. You got a big pay raise. How do you feel? It's a control thing. He goes into a bar up in northern Maine when they shut the 9 o'clock thing down. I saw the video. It's disgusting. Disgusting. He goes in there, somebody gets a drink like 10 minutes till 9. They're drinking it. Larry's like, you served a drink. Oh, it's unbelievable. I've never seen nothing like it in my life.
Yeah.
And I used to have respect for Larry Sanborn years ago, because you got to remember, I've had 4 restaurants, 2 stores. I've had a lot of liquor licenses, and never seen nothing like this in my life.
Yeah, raw tyranny, sheer tyranny, like tyranny's right in your face there. A person coming in, this is how tyranny works, America. The tyrants rule, they have enforcers. The enforcers go and inflict punishment on the people that don't listen, that are non-compliant, and whip them into compliance and instill fear and terror and subservience in the masses. It's exactly the polar opposite of how we're supposed to be as a constitutional republic. And as we, the people of Maine, should have come to this man's aid. I was alarmed when I saw how little support you were getting. And I was like, hey, look at this guy, man. We all need to be behind him. And I looked around and who's here? Who's helping? Who's saying yes? and you weren't on the news, and that's the thing that made me the angriest of all, was that how do the news stations of Maine ignore this story? And they really did virtually. I mean, they put up their little token, by the way, this is happening, but wow, how do you not get called by every major news station and asked to come down and do a live interview with them? That is, we know why they're controlled. They do what they're told. They're lackeys. They're not objective. They're not independent. They're just pawns. And I know that when I see what they say, and I realize they're the words of Sauron. They're being fed to them from somewhere. These aren't the words of this person sitting there at that desk. They're someone's words telling them the Associated Press or whatever organization, so-called organization. So you're not going to get the live story. And I don't know if you ever follow Dan Bongino, but I highly recommend that you check him out. He's hilarious. He's on Rumble. He's a former Secret Service.
Years. I haven't recently.
He said just yesterday, he said, we're the news now. And he's right. That you can listen to anyone you want. You can listen to some crazy redheaded guy from Brewer, Maine. You can listen to Dan Bongino. You can listen to Joe Rogan. You can listen to, if you want to watch The View, you can, whatever you want to watch. And the truth will come to you. The truth is out there if you just look, and all over America, there are guys like Rick Savage who are having these experiences, and you're not hearing about them because you won't hear about them if you watch the mainstream media. They're not talking about this stuff, or they throw it up there very quickly like, okay, sure, we're covering it. Here's our independent coverage. You can trust us. And then on to the next story. And everything that Rick's going through is behind the scenes. You don't hear about it. So I'm thrilled to have you here and thrilled to give you the voice that you should have had in the first place, to be able to talk to everyone in Maine and say, this is what's happening to me, Maine. Help me. I need your help. I need you all to raise your voices and go, hell no, not on my watch. What are you doing, Janet Mills? You're nuts.
Put it this way, Channel 6, when you punched in COVID-19, I came up. A negative article.
Yeah, because you weren't compliant. You didn't do what the overlords told you to do.
That's the truth. You can punch me on it. And COVID-19, the first thing come up is me. Not the nursing homes or anything like that. This guy that ran a restaurant that called them out. They didn't like it because I called them out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what? It is what it is.
It is. And that's why I'm here to help you. And I'm thrilled to have you. And I'm thrilled to have you. Absolutely, man. Because you know what? If the more people that hear it, the more people will ally. And together we will all say, no, you're not going to do this to us. We're going to hold you accountable. There's everything you've done as a matter of record. As you were just saying, you're naming names. It's all there. The records are there. Dan Bongino uses the term receipts, which I love. He says, I'll bring receipts. Bingo, 100%. There you go. So, and we'll haul them out into the light, and we'll confront them with the evidence of their wrongdoing, show everyone so they don't get to say, oh, that's misinformation. These are not the droids you're looking for. Do not look here. Look over there. Hurricane, and they will have to answer for what they did. And I'm looking forward to it, deeply looking forward to it.
Put it this way. My wife and myself left the state of Maine with 7 businesses, left a lot of money on the table for principal. Went to New Hampshire, started this restaurant. And now we're like, no, we're going back to Maine, and it's going to happen. We're looking for the right attorney, the right situation. We got time. And when we do, there's been somebody subpoenaing information from them through the Freedom of Information. They won't turn it over. It's been over a year. They won't turn it over.
I've seen a lot of that in other areas. I'm involved in a lot of various groups, organizations, et cetera, that have similar causes as yours nationwide. And they all are very familiar with using things like affidavits and FOIA requests. And they've all said the same thing to me recently in my dealings with them. They've all said that the FOIA requests are ignored. And that's what they're doing, is they're holding up because they know that when the truth comes out, they're screwed. And they've got nothing to lose by ignoring the FOIA requests, because they're going to suffer. If they honor them, they will suffer. They know that. So that's their little line of defense. That's the current battle 100%. Everywhere.
100%. And then when you got your own government weaponized against an individual, and you're not paying the bills, but we were paying our bills. They didn't have to pay their bills. And here you got the Attorney General in the state of Maine, the CDC director. Who was that guy we had there?
Narav Shah.
Shaw, the idiot, he's coming into my court case, right? I mean, all
Oh,
these people, they all testified in the
good.
court, every one of them.
Wow.
You got to get. I've talked to my lawyer today, and I'm going Monday for another reason. But I told him, I said, I want my whole case. I want it handed over to me. Okay, because I'm going to make it public.
Good.
I'm going to make the
I
whole
will
case
gladly help you with that, Rick.
And
You
you know what's
keep
so
me in
nice
the loop,
about
and I will help you with that in every way I can.
You know what's so nice about that? It was all live streamed. It wasn't in the court. It's all on video.
Yep.
You could watch the whole thing. You could get that if you just requested it.
Yeah.
From
So
Oxford County Superior Court.
yeah, that's the same path I've been on recently, is that all these things are a matter of record. They're right there, and all it takes is some action. And in order for this to have weight, there need to be a lot of people behind us, and I'm feeling like that's finally happening. People are finally mad enough, and they're finally willing to say, I had several people recently say, what do you think I should do about this or that, or blah, blah, blah. We were talking earlier about what's going on in North Carolina, and I don't want to get off into the weeds to that, but those of you who don't know, in North Carolina, FEMA is running rampant roughshod over the people there. They're barely staying alive. It's snowing. They're freezing. They have DHS threatening to take their children because they're supposedly living in unsafe conditions. FEMA's not there doing squat. Okay, it's hard working Americans who are down there helping them out, doing their own fundraising with their own vehicles and their own time and resources. That's why the people of North Carolina are getting help. They're not getting help from FEMA. Trust me on that. So
There's no doubt about it. FEMA's got no money. The Amish are sending a bus down every week. A bus. They don't even like to ride on a bus.
Yep. We help each other. Okay, America. Federal agencies don't help us. All they do is take our money and sit fat and happy and ask for more. Mm-hmm. We help each other in times of need. We help each other. And so here in Maine, there's a famous saying that is, as Maine goes, so goes the nation. I don't know if that's true or not, but I do know that that's one of the reasons I live in this state is I love it here and I love the people, and they're good people. They're good, kind, decent, honest, honorable people. And we hold our liberties dear. We like our guns. We like our right to bear arms. We like our freedom of speech. We like to be able to come and go as we please and be free from unwarranted searches and seizures. And once we unite on that, they can't stop us. So we all unite behind Rick, and his lawful remedies will come to fruition. And I'm looking forward to it, even though I have no dog in that fight. I don't work for Rick. He's not my brother-in-law. I wasn't the best man at his wedding. His wife's not my sister. But you know what? His rights are mine. His rights are mine. If this can be done to him, it can be done to me. And I will never sit back and let that happen. Not ever. So looking forward to path to lawful remedies and lawful solutions. And Maine, get with us. Let's get on the same page on this and see it happen. And let's shame the media. And that's on my list. Interactions with our legislators. I've written some letters recently. A couple of you watching me here have seen my letters to our elected servants, letters to our governor, and they're not very nice because that's what she has coming. And if we all start writing letters and making these phone calls, they'll know we're aware of what's going on. They'll hear our voices and they'll realize that they better do the right thing or they'll be held accountable. And holding a few accountable would be really, really helpful. So,
well, it has to happen. I mean, statewide, both sides, we're not in a good place right now. We're not in a good place. Maine, we're losing Mainers all the time because we're getting overpopulated by people moving in that don't have our same values.
Yep.
And we need to tell these people, you want to move to Maine, you need to sign this oath that you have our values. And it's tough. You know what I mean? It's tough. People, they don't have it anymore. We're trying to live in a state where we have those values. I've lived here most of my life. And besides military, and it sucks that we can't change anything in this state. And it's mostly because people that are not long-term Mainers vote against what we want.
It is very true. Yeah. And we saw that in the election. I saw a graph, not a graph, a map recently with illustrating that everything from virtually the very, very southernmost portion of the state north was pro-Trump. And all of the southernmost regions were pro-Harris, supposedly, but
right.
We know it's true.
And they got the population, We got the land, they got the population.
Yeah.
So
And they move here because they like
what we're all
the
about.
state, what we're all about. Then they want to change it and have it be more like the place they just came from, where all of these problems with basically socialism / communism are causing them stress and anxiety, and they want to go to a place where they're free, and then they want to impose the same ridiculous crap there. So
Well, we see it locally in the planning boards in Maine. Okay, they'll move to Maine, they'll get on a planning board.
Yep.
And then
Or
they
a
want
school
to
board.
change the way, or the school board, then they want to change the town's run. It's like, why'd you move to Maine? Because I like what you guys are doing. Well, don't change it. We've done it for a couple hundred years. Leave us alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
But they can't stop, because most of them, they have a little influence where they come from. So they were a big cock on the walk somewhere. So they want to keep doing it where they're moving to. And it is what it is. But that's what we're dealing with.
Yes. So throughout our cast, we've had some comments going on. I'm not sure if you've gotten a chance to check them out. There's one here I really want you to see. This is our mutual friend, Mrs. Blount. I don't know if you can read this here, but thank you, Rick, for living your liberties out loud. You were a great encouragement to us back then when there wasn't much to be encouraged about. Thank you for paying a great cost to sound the alarm.
No, I appreciate it.
Yeah. I did a wonderful, wonderful interview with Mrs. Blount about her fight against the powers that be that tried to stop her from homeschooling her children. And you can check that out on my YouTube and BitTube channels if you're interested. It's a great interview. And my very good friend Elizabeth has chimed in a couple times. God bless you, Elizabeth. She ran for office recently, didn't get elected, but she did a wonderful job of getting out, meeting the people. So I admire her and respect her a lot. And my friend Hank brought up this point. He was talking about the nurses and healthcare workers denied their right to work and lost their jobs thanks to Mills and Shaw policy. And this is huge because not only in Maine, but in every state, the powers that be harassed, threatened, and this was a very dark and ominous and belligerent movement. It wasn't friendly, helpful, well-informed, let's keep everyone healthy, let's do what's best for everyone. It was, you will do this or you will be punished, get in line, do not ask questions, do not defy the directive, you will be fired. And sure enough, they did. They fired a bunch of healthcare workers, CNAs, nurses, EMTs, because they refused an experimental injection. And now, excuse my French, now these fuckers are bitching because they're shorthanded. I am not even kidding you. And they're talking about how they don't have enough nurses. Are you kidding me right now?
Right.
And then they brought in traveling nurses who were not injected with the poison and let them work here and paid them an exorbitant salary, well above what. Say again?
Twice the money.
Unbelievable.
They still
unbelievable.
I was in the hospital for a small thing about a year ago. They had right on my door outside, unvaccinated. Right on my door outside. So there was some new nurses wouldn't even walk in. There was other ones like, this is ridiculous. You know what I mean?
It's so crazy.
That's
and I'm going to go back to what I said at the beginning of our live stream here, Rick. Okay. And I'll never forget when I saw this on TV. And folks, the first time I saw this on TV, they said there was a horrible, deadly, terrible plague, and it was in Italy. That's what the very first time I saw a newscast. And I watched the news virtually every single weekday morning from 5:30 until 6 o'clock a.m. I watch America This Morning on ABC. Then I watch our local news from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. And then I watch Good Morning America from 7 a.m. until 8 a.m. So I know exactly what the Ministry of Propaganda is saying. Exactly. And I every single day watch this news. And the very first time they mentioned this plague was when they came on and Michael Strahan told us about a horrible, deadly, terrible plague in Italy. Not China. Not China. Italy. Thousands of people sick, dying. Thousands of people. Experts, deeply concerned, very troubled. They were full of dark adjectives, troubles, concerns, deadly plague, outbreak, deep concern, so forth. Pandemic then became the word that came out. And the whole time I'm going, well, where did this come from? And I'm sorry, I'm just naive little, country boy from Maine. I said, where's this coming from? Can you tell me what happened? Did it suddenly erupt? Is there a giant mushroom in the woods? And so then they started talking about, oh, now the experts are telling you it's going to spread everywhere, and we need to be very concerned and very worried. And then Narav Shah became a thing, and this Maine CDC, and they started talking about how we could anticipate this was going to come here and blah, blah, blah. And then one day I went to my local supermarket, and there was a poor, underpaid guy frantically wiping down shopping carts with a rag and alcohol or something like that. And I said, does this really make sense? Can you show me the plague before we freak out? Can you show me the plague? Because I don't see it. That's all I'm saying. And everyone lost their damn minds. Everyone it was like a zombie apocalypse movie, watching people walking around horrified by what they were apparently not seeing. Show me the plague. I don't see it. Show me people dropping dead. I don't see it. And the whole time, it just created fear, as Rick has said very aptly, fear, paranoia, discord, division. And then along comes the governors of all these states, including our governor, Janet Mills, who start issuing so-called executive orders. And I immediately said, what's an executive order? How does she suddenly have the authority to order me to do something? Can she order me to do everything? Could she order me to kill myself or cut off my finger? Where does this even come from? And I started delving into this, and I came to understand that I was right in the first place. She does not have the authority. That's the truth. God help me if I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, you need to prove me wrong, because I've been told I'm wrong many times about this. No one has yet supplied me with evidence that that's the case. I am right.
100%. She had no
Does not have the authority.
Nothing. Nothing. To this day, she didn't have the authority. They weaponized the government against their own people. They weaponized the people against their own people. They had people turning us in. I had a guy come in my store. He's like, this is going to be easy. One person without a mask, two people without a mask, three people without a mask. I'm calling the state. I chased him right out of my store.
Good for you.
I'm like, you're lucky I don't beat you, and I'm not a violent man.
You.
I got sick of it. He was my neighbor. Like, what are you doing? We're serving you. You know what I mean? I'm like, he apologized 4 or 5 months later. He pulled in my new restaurant. He's like, I was an idiot, or whatever. A year or two later, he was like, I'm an idiot. Sorry I did that. I'm like, hey, things happen. You know, it is what it is, and no problem. We shook hands and we move on.
Good for you. Yep.
I'm not putting up, you know?
Yeah, that's why we got along, Rick. So for those who have not seen this, I got to show you. So I had sorry, wrong one. Bear with me. I had a picture that was taken at the protest I think it was the one that I originally met Rick. And it was an awesome picture. Like, I just love this picture. And let me bring it up before I get too deeply into it. This is not the one. Let's find the one I'm talking about. There's Rick's manly stance in front of the Sunday River Brewing Company. This was on social media. I plucked it off. I don't know if you guys are seeing that, but I love this picture. It's basically, what'd she say?
I said those are some epic forearms.
That's my wife in the back.
That's what I'm saying. I know. Yeah. God bless your wife. Okay. This picture right here, I had on my webpage, and my Facebook page, and it wasn't up there more than 10 minutes. And someone said, is that Rick Savage's bald head in the front? I said, yes. How do you recognize that? And I love this picture, and because there's a lot of facets to this picture, and something I really want to kind of bring up and talk to everyone about is, America, I'll need you to look way in the back, and you'll see there's a couple of Augusta police officers back there, and you will notice that they do not look worried. Think about that very carefully. They don't look worried. They're not wearing riot gear. There's no helmets. Why is that, America? Why do you think those police officers are standing there, and they are surrounded by, if you look carefully, that gentleman you see with the two flags has a pistol on his hip. Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry if that scares you. Okay. And yet the police are unconcerned. Why are they unconcerned? Because they know us. This is not our first rodeo. We are Americans, Mainers, patriots, husbands, brothers, wives, sisters. We're not criminals. We're not terrorists. No one's got a Molotov in their hand. See? So we are peacefully assembling, as is our God-given constitutionally protected right, to petition our government for a redress of our grievances. And this is one of the reasons I love my state. So this is a great picture. I just absolutely love this picture. There's Rick. There's me with my homemade sign. For some reason, I found everything I needed to make a sign right in my closet when I literally had like a few minutes to make one. And I made that sign, which I still have, and I love. There I am. Forgot my shoes that day. I don't know what happened. This is my friend Cherie. This is one of the best pictures ever. That's our taxpayer-funded Blaine house where our governor lives like a queen while the rest of us rot. She is armed as well, you'll notice. She's armed a lot. So that was a great day, and I was really pleased that day to be with so many like-minded patriots. And really, I wish that we had been able to assemble the kind of crowd that we really needed to make a huge impact. I think our media is really where we kind of fall short each time. Like, I've never talked to anybody about your case or any of these issues that hasn't more or less agreed with me and said, yeah, that's, crazy that the governor should do that. But they don't hear that. They hear from the TV news largely. So.
Well, they agree with it. They're all the same. They're all in one. All the news in the state of Maine is one. So I think all the newspapers, besides a couple small ones, are owned by one, quote, nonprofit bought by Soros, if I'm right, but I'm not sure. But, it is what it is.
We've heard that before.
And the thing of it is, you watch one side of the news all the time and you kind of start to believe it. And that's why it's nice with the podcasts and different things. You can get on the computer and you can do that. And honestly, they said Trump won because of that. Because of social media and other media outlets.
No doubt.
And I'm reading today, and the media outlets know, they go, why are we here anymore? We're done. That's what they're saying today. We're done. And you should be done. You've lied to us for so long. You've manipulated us. You've just spun what you want us to hear. I mean, who is some celebrity to tell me who to vote for?
Yeah, Taylor Swift.
They were buying them anyway. They weren't just telling us who to vote for. They were being paid to do that. Yep. So it is what it is.
Solid truth. Yeah.
But we're going to move forward in the state of Maine. We're coming back, and I am challenging the governor, and I will run another restaurant in the state of Maine with no permits, and I will have right on my receipt that you understand that I don't have a health and human license license in the state of Maine, which honestly, to be honest with you, they're not really protecting you. Go in 95% of the restaurants in Maine, you wouldn't eat in a kitchen. You wouldn't eat in a place, and that's the truth. I'm being honest. Probably 85% of the restaurants in the state of Maine, if you saw their kitchen, you wouldn't eat in them. And I'm not slamming the industry. I'm slamming the state of Maine. Because if you're not being told that they act like there's some big government, we need you to do this or you need to do that. They never come back. They come in, tell you what to do. They never come back. That's the truth. I run a clean restaurant now. Really?
I think we're on the same page with regard to the issue of that they are not effective at their jobs. I don't even know anyone who could maintain that somehow the government is good at doing these things that they are supposedly doing, like making sure your restaurant is, clean and healthy. And my view is now that they don't have authority. And at the end of the day, I am a thinking, rational man. I can go eat at any restaurant I want. And if I want to go in your restaurant and wade through bacon grease to get to the counter where you slap a dirty glass down in front of me and pour me a beer, well, it's my right to do that. And if I go, I don't want to do that because I don't want to drink from a dirty glass, and I go to this guy, Rick Savage has a restaurant, I go there, glass is nice and clean. Well, I'm going to come here and I'm going to give Rick Savage my money, and I'm not going to go to, Dirty Barney's barn of, grease or whatever. It's about our will to do what we want to do. As long as we're not harming anyone, we should be able to do whatever we want to do. And even if you accept the concept that the government has some authority, which I don't accept at all, and they don't, and the law and fact prove me right on that. Even if I accepted that, they're literally not doing it. They don't do it.
They don't care.
They don't. They send some.
We're getting sued by the federal government because they're not meeting standards. Come
Yeah,
on,
it's insane.
right?
So
And
yeah,
these things that you're not meeting should be number one. There are kids involved,
That's the point.
Well
Community
said.
is-
right? And they can't even do that the right way.
You're right.
So
They
when you
don't.
start
They
with
don't.
that, they got no credibility at that point.
You're exactly right. Well said. And so I think we will see a very strong concerted effort on the part of we the people to A, hold them accountable, and to B, remove all of this waste. There's just a god awful amount of waste and corruption. And I think we're going to be able to finally get the energy and the attention that we need to see progress on those things.
When you talk
So,
corruption, I just want to mention this real quick. Okay. Farmington, Maine, where our governor's from,
mhm.
right? How many solar panels in Farmington, Maine?
Mm.
How much do you think she made off those?
Oh,
Just saying.
yep. Well,
There's probably more solar panels in Farmington, Maine than any other town in Maine. They say when
it's all a matter of record, Rick. That everything you're
fly over
saying.
Farmington, it looks like there's small ponds everywhere.
And that contributes a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of our power. And we, the people, never authorized that, did we? At
We're
any
paying
point,
for it.
anyone watching, post in the comments, you show me where we, the people of Maine, said, yeah, we love this idea. Let's make that happen. Go ahead, push forward, charge. We didn't. It's the same as that stupid CMP corridor. We, the people of Maine, never said, yes, cut a giant swath through our state from the north all the way to the south that's wide enough to be seen from space. We love this idea. In fact, we specifically said no excuse my French, 3 fucking times we said no, and they still shoved that damn corridor down our throats.
This is the energy department in the state of Maine. We went in one time to change something, okay, for developers in the state of Maine. We sat there, 7 or 8 hours that day? It was National Pie Day,
That's the worst.
okay? They shut the meeting down and all ate pie in front of us for a half hour. Okay. So when those quarters and stuff like that happen, you got to think of that. Okay. We had people there from the Scarborough development. We had people from all over Maine in there to testify. We were trying to get CMP to pay a portion of the power for new developments in the state of Maine because they pay nothing right now. We have to build the infrastructure. We get nothing back. That's a whole nother story. But we were down there. I was running this initiative to try to get this changed for 5 or 6, 7 years. We finally got into the energy department, and the director of it, Seth Berry, very smart guy, I really respect him. Democrat, I supported him, right? But he actually shut the meeting down so they could eat pie in front of us. That's how the state of Maine government runs. Pie on us.
I hope that I really wish I could get everyone in the state of Maine to watch this, to confront this reality. And I'll tell you, Rick, what really irritates me the most is that when I bring these things out, when I talk to people like you or all the other people that I've talked to and interviewed and gotten their voices out in front of the general public, I always get people say, well, what do we do? And I always say, I'm glad you asked that, because our voices matter, but people will not listen. They won't hear you when you say, pick up your phone. Here's my phone, pick it up, dial the number of your elected servants. They work for us. And people always go, that won't help. That's the first thing they say. Won't help, won't make a difference. You are wrong. You are wrong, wrong, wrong. It does. I had a conversation recently with a friend who is now in our legislature and told me a tale of one of her colleagues receiving phone calls about an issue and remarking to her that she had received, quote unquote, a lot of calls. And she asked this person, well, how many calls did you receive? How many would you think would constitute the term a lot
4.
from this person, right? If you didn't know better, how many people are there in Maine? 1.5 million. So in any particular district, we're, a couple $100,000, maybe 15, 20 grand or so that are actually thinking and caring and want to be involved. 10 calls they had received. This was a lot of calls. We have all the power. And I guarantee you, Maine, telling you right now, if every single one of us had gotten behind this guy and called Janet Mills hot as a wet hornet and said, who the hell are you to send your agents to harass a Mainer who is trying to exercise his God-given constitutionally protected rights to run his own business in peace without your damn interference? And we should have impeached her. That's my feeling. That's the hill I die on. She should have been impeached right there.
100%. 100%. So we're not done. We're coming back, and it's not going to be good because I'm not laying down.
Well, I would hope
Good.
it would be good.
It's not going to be good for them, not me, saying for them.
We knew what you meant. I knew what you meant. All right. Well, you know, I'm right here with you. I'll help you
We
in any way.
appreciate it. Really happy to hear you call me. Have you call me the other day?
Yeah, it was timely that we got together. I had a couple setbacks recently. You know, we had some setbacks here in Maine. We had, we lost Sean McBriarty a while back. My friend Paul Goslin was shot by police in New York, and they're claiming he was trying to run one of them over. So he's deep in legal battles there in another state, New York, not a friendly state. We've been taking some hits, taking some casualties, and I took a hit recently. Someone very close to me was concerned with my beliefs and said maybe they didn't want to have a relationship with me because of my beliefs. And, it's a dark time. But I felt recently a kind of resurgence, and I was looking through my phone, your name came up, and I said, it's about time we connect because, like I said, everything they did is a matter of record, and there's no statute of limitations on their crimes. So we're going to haul them out in the light, hold them accountable, and everyone in Maine and the nation is going to see it happen. And all we got to do is get enough people behind it. And I will always be there with you, supplying, as much as I can, that getting your word out to people that want to hear it so that we can get the support we need to see these changes.
And I'm hoping the Trump administration, bringing people like Pam Bondi in and stuff, will look at all the people that got harmed because of this and say, no, this isn't right. We're stepping up as a federal government saying, you states aren't going to do this. You're not doing this to these citizens. The federal government has a right to step in also and fix this. They were part of the creation in the first place. So they need to step up. And I think this new administration might look at it and say, this is ridiculous.
I'm cautiously optimistic about it, Rick. And I've had a lot of discussions with people recently. There are people that, you don't trust Trump. They think he's controlled op, back and forth, blah, blah, blah. Do you trust Elon? And I said to all of them, I don't trust or distrust anyone specifically. If Elon's not coming to babysit my child, so I don't have to worry about whether or not he is or is not reliable. If he does something I approve of, I'm going to support him just like Trump. And so far, I'm liking what I'm seeing, and I'm going along with it as long as it's in the best interest of we the people, which it is so far. And I am cautiously optimistic. That's where I honestly stand.
Right. And I think people really ought to research the policy that people are putting forth, not the person.
Thank you.
And I think once you see that, you'll get way past where they're hateful of Trump. Because there's no reason for it. He was a great president. Done.
That's what I've said. And I'll be very honest right now. I was highly critical of him when he ran for president. And this is a matter of record too. I did videos and I told you I'm deeply concerned and worried. And I don't think he's a great guy. And I had legitimate criticisms against him. But regardless of that, he got elected. And when he got elected, I watched what he did and I weighed it very carefully. And you know what? I was wrong. He was a good president. He did what he said. He worked on border security. He was true to his word. He didn't waver. Every time he got attacked by some Washington insider, that just lends weight to me to his credibility. Because if they don't want him there that badly, then probably even we do want him there.
Right. Even the generals and all that coming out against him and stuff. That's the last thing you do in the military. He's the commander in chief, no matter who it is, whether it's Biden, Trump, Obama, it doesn't matter. If you're in the military, you respect the commander in chief, period. These people should be court-martialed over what they said because that's not their position. Their position is the military.
Well, yeah, unless he's committed a crime. Like if you can say he committed this crime, he committed treason, then okay. But other than that, no, there's no point to it.
I'm talking where they all signed a letter that said the Russian hoax was true.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Which now we've learned is false.
Right.
Yep. You're right. Absolutely right. And so you if you are a general The only time you would ever want to do that is if there was an absolute crime and you could prove that, yes, this person committed that crime. If you don't, then you shut your mouth and you do what you're told, because that's how the military works. We follow orders. So you're right. I agree with you completely on that. So, and again, I'm hopeful that.
Right. I was an E4 in the military. I never wanted to make rank, because as soon as you made rank, I wouldn't be an equipment operator. I'd be a pencil pusher, they called it. So I never made rank, and you always respected the commander in chief, even to this day. I don't care for Biden, but I respected him because of my military, and everybody should. And once these guys
mighty big of you, Rick. You may be a bigger man than I am.
It is what it is. You know what I mean? But my point being, these people coming against the president is just ridiculous, especially in their position with their clout and in their. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you for sure on that. Hank makes a great point here. He says, ever notice how Mills and Biden never stood up for our lobstermen? This has been a pet peeve of mine since day one. Ironically, I'm not a lobsterman, don't really know a lot of lobstermen, and don't even eat lobster. But, Maine lobster is like industry. I mean, worldwide, Maine lobster is recognized worldwide. If you have in Japan a lobster on your menu, a discerning connoisseur would say, is it Maine lobster? That's what I'm talking about.
But this way, my restaurant, we sell lobster rolls, we sell lobster mac and cheese. We buy $50,000 a year worth of lobster meat. And the fishermen right now had one of the worst years they've ever had.
Yeah.
Lobster meat right now right now it's really bad. It's like $38 a pound. For fresh, it's like 48 to 60. It's crazy. But we need to stand up for these industries. They're making it so hard with rules and regulations that they can't fish anymore. Look at the state last session. They were working on 2,000 new laws and bills for the state of Maine.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Why don't they work on taking 2,000 away?
Yeah.
Like for everyone they create, they ought to take 10 away.
I agree.
Then we might do it again.
I've been pounding that drum for a long time, and especially because the lobstermen are the backbone of our economy here in Maine. They've been doing this for generations, and they're trying to tell us that right whales are washing up on shores in various places, wrapped right up tight in Maine lobster gear, and so the federal government gets to come tell us how to fish for lobster. And I've been trumpeting from day one, that's a giant steaming pile of bullshit. And I will say categorically, and again, prove me wrong, America. You think I'm wrong? Prove me wrong, okay? The federal government has no authority to come to Maine and send agents to Maine and tell us to do anything. And if I were the governor of Maine, I would throw those sons of bitches in jail. I'm not even kidding you. I would call every sheriff in Maine, and I would direct them, when any federal agent comes to Maine and starts messing with lobstermen, you or a deputy go down there, slap his ass in irons, and throw him in jail.
They're worried about a small lobster trap and a rope coming up out of the water, okay? But they're not worried about offshore wind. That's okay.
Giant wind power cables.
We could do all those. They're not going to get in those.
Yeah, across the bottom of the ocean.
They're out of their minds. You know what it is? We have to
use special ropes.
You know what it is? They haven't figured a way to make money off the lobster industry personally. It's not on the stock market. They haven't figured a way how to make money off it personally. It doesn't affect them.
Solid truth. Yeah.
So it is what it is. I appreciate the call, and I look forward to coming back.
Yeah, we've gone way over, which is okay, because it was like good stuff, and I think we really made an important message for Maine to hear, Maine and the country to hear, because they say as Maine goes, so goes the nation. We're a fiercely independent state, and if the rest of the nation looks at what we're doing and takes some direction from it, good. And let's all get on board with the same concepts that, what happened to Rick should never have happened. Everyone in Maine should have been mad as hell and said, Janet Mills, no, you don't have any authority to tell someone to shut down their business and send your agents to harass and intimidate them if they refuse to comply with your unconstitutional orders. And more importantly, that we should all unite under the common cause of holding her accountable, which we can do.
Right. And let me just say this. From May 1st to December 18th, they came in probably, I'm going to say, without exaggeration, 45 to 50 times. into my location.
That's some harassment. There's no judge alive on this planet that could deny that is harassment, and except for the corrupt one that ruled against you in your lawsuit. But yeah. So when you have a move or want to make a move or whatever, look me up. We'll do this again. Make sure everybody in Maine knows what's going on. And we need people there with cameras, phones in hand, cameras, videotaping every interaction that goes on. And we will hold these sons of bitches accountable. And I'll be on the front line. I'll come down there myself, Rick.
They know I'm coming back.
Good.
I made it clear.
Good. Tell him the angry citizen's going to be there and he's mad as hell. And we will have some accountability.
Nice. Appreciate it.
Rick, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. God bless you and your wife, Melissa. She's an awesome asset to you. Probably you're dating out of your league, my friend, but
100%. You're kidding
good
me?
for you.
That guy getting home, I'm happy.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
It's a pleasure meeting you, Melissa. Yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I appreciate all of you, my audience, all your comments. Appreciate you. And hopefully we will be able to unite as constitutional Mainers and see accountability inflicted on the tyrants that are running our state and see us all take a better direction, which I think we can do if we unite. God bless you all. Thank you for your time, attention, and support. I am Dana the Angry Citizen signing off. God bless.